Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about what is next for character building in Marvel Future Fight. Because as it stands right now, we are inching ever closer. We've actually just hit the milestone of having every single character in the game with this last update being able to go to level 70. We now have 0 levels, like stuck at level 60 tier 2 characters. I mean, these characters here, I haven't finished their potential, but as you can see, every single character in the game either has their potential unlocked, and I've gone to at least level 62 with them, or they're in the process of searching for their potential. And that's a big milestone, right? We've seen milestones in the past in the game, every single character getting a 6th skill. Believe it or not, characters didn't used to have a 6th skill. And then every single character getting a tier 2, which was an extra passive ability and a stat bump and a sort of upgrade there. And then tier 2 was then, followed by tier 3. And Transcendence followed a year later. Yeah, 2 years later. Anywho, you get what I'm saying. So we're sort of wondering what the next, some players are wondering, I'm wondering what the next step will be. Now, I've given a lot of ideas and a lot of thought to this, to what the next step could be, and I think it could take multiple forms. I don't really want to get into the cost of those forms, because obviously whatever it is going to cost a lot, so to speak. Like, when I say a lot, I just mean like it'll either cost a lot of the resources we currently have, or it'll cost some sort of brand new resource that we all have 0 of right now. Like, they'll introduce something else, the way they introduced black antimatter, the way they introduced CCF, the way they introduced awakening crystals and Mandalay gem fragments. Like, it'll just be some new sort of resource, because that's just how games work, right? How mobile games work anyways. They will complete a certain build level for character, like they'll plateau the character development, and they'll say, okay, let's take it a step further. Let's start upgrading characters to this new level and introduce this new farmable resource, maybe a new game mode to go along with it, or we'll rework an existing game mode. For example, in Marvel Strike Force, they had whatever the gear tiers, and then they introduced ISO 8. And now every character needed ISO 8, needed different ISO 8, needed different equips for that, and it sort of just bumps up the cost and the time involved in maxing out a character. But it basically just prolongs the time that you play the game, because that's the whole point, right? They want it to give us new things to do in the game. And yeah, you might be struggling to build characters now, but in the big picture, right, they want to give you more to do rather than less to do, because they always want players playing, which is more players potentially spending, right? You guys know the whole thing. So there's a bunch of different ways that they can go about increasing characters' power level in some way, like tier 2, like tier 3, in the way that they've done in the past. I think personally the most obvious and the most likely way is to just increase the level of the characters. You can see there, we haven't had a level increase since tier 3 was introduced. So characters could only go to level 60 tier 2, and then in April of 2018, so this is more than 3 years ago now, more than 3 years ago, that's crazy, with Infinity War. Yeah, Infinity War, they introduced tier 3, and with tier 3 you could take a character from level 60 to level 70. So with that system, they introduced a whole whack of things. They introduced, potential. So there's like, it's like a multi-layered, multi-step thing, right? So you have the potential. First thing you have to do, you got to take the character into world boss, and you have to clear world boss normal, legend, or ultimate to search for their potential. That was step 1. Then step 2 was to go ahead and enhance their potential to level 70 with biometrics and black antimatter. So they were using a lot of existing materials that you already had. And then when you get to level 70, in the case of Captain America, then you could get his gears to 25, which introduced the new tier 3 material. And then you could tier 3 him, which introduced another new material with the Titan component packs and the CCF. So you can see there, that one thing, in just going from level 60 to level 70, introduced like 4 new types of items, right? Essence of Dimension, Titan component pack, CCF, and Titan records, in addition to all these other things. But yeah, I do think that increasing the characters' levels is probably the easiest way to go. I don't know if that's what the devs are going to do, but it's unusual for a game to go this long without having characters leveling up in that sense. Like 3 years is a really big gap for that. And we can already see enemies higher level than us in the game, which is also unusual. Usually in Marvel Future Fight, when the enemies are a higher level, the level is unknown. Like in old World Boss Ultimate, the level would say unknown because it was way higher than 60 because they were, you know, World Boss Ultimates, the old World Boss Ultimate system. So yeah, level 70 to level 80, I don't know. That would probably accompany a shield level increase, which again hasn't happened since 2018. The shield level, there was a race from shield level 60 to shield level 70, and there are some, you know, there's some energy you get from leveling up. It's not really a big deal to go from shield level 60 to 70 or 70 to 80, but it's an interesting thing that we just haven't done. I haven't done in like 3 years. Besides increasing the level to 80, which again, increasing the character's level to 80 could introduce a whole new bag of things. Like for example, maybe only characters that can get to level 80 can get their gears to level 30, right? From 25 to 30. Maybe when they do gear level 25 to 30, they're going to introduce some new material. I'm not saying this to scare you or whatever. I'm just saying that there's ways for them to slow players down, but to create a new investment system, a new progression system, in order for players to have something to build towards. Because to be honest, we're probably getting to the point, and I've started saying it in my video, so you can sort of hear it, that you can just build whoever you want, right? So you know, we review uniforms and we're like, yeah, Doctor Doom's uniform is really good. You should strongly consider buying it. But even if you don't buy it, you're not boned. You're not out of luck. It's not like he's the only character in the game that can do A, B, or C, right? He may have one game mode where he's probably the best, squad battle, but even for squad battle, you can still get a very competitive score with the evil Captain Marvel. In World Boss Legend, you can play with other villains like the Black Order, Mephisto, etc. In Timeline Battle, you can build Blue Marvel, you can build the Defenders, you can build Sentry. Like there's a lot of options, right, for all of these different game modes. And so with that in mind, I think it also puts a little bit of pressure on the devs to come up with the next progression system, because there's a bit too much, there might just be a bit too much hoarding. And when there's too much not too much hoarding, but just a lot of players might be like, you know what, I don't really need to build any of these characters. I'm just going to keep saving my resources until the next big thing, right? Whether it's native tier 3, blah 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 blah. And that makes sense, right? Why wouldn't you do that at this point? Because if you've built up enough characters that can carry you through 5 stages of World Boss Legend, that can carry you through all of the different ban lists for Timeline Battle, right? That's a valid way of playing. Obviously, there's a valid way of playing to just build whoever you want and have fun with the game. You don't have to chase the meta and things like that. But the devs want to do something. Like they want to have a game that is that has progression for all types of players, whether you play slowly, whether you're free to play, whether you spend money a little bit, where you spend a lot of money, etc. So I do think level 70 and like a gear upgrade is probably the simplest way of doing things, but there is also the possibility that they could just introduce some sort of new singular upgrade system. So by singular upgrade system, I don't really have a better way of explaining it, but if you think about it, all of the things here on this side, after all of them except for the info page, basically, they're sort of like a singular upgrade that is copy and pasted for every single character in the game. So every single character in the game has a empty custom gear slot that you can then put whatever you want into it. Every single character in the game has an empty 8 set of ISO that you can then put whatever you want into it, right? Every character's gears have 20 empty Uru slots that you can put Uru into. Now, there's 2 things they could do. They could either take an existing item, like an existing set of things, and they could upgrade it the way that they introduced Odin's Blessings for Uru, and they introduced CTPs for obelisks. They could do that. So they could, for example, introduce some sort of, you know, mega ISO 8 or you know, super awakened ISO 8 or whatever you want to call it, right? And it would be the fancy version of ISO 8, and you'd have to, you know, it would be very rare to get, but it would offer additional stat boosts. They could make type enhancement. They could offer something beyond rank 6 of type enhancement, where you have to collect some sort of extra material and it's going to give you some extra stat bonuses. They could add something onto the uniforms, right? Maybe they're going to add some sort of upgrade system to the uniforms, where you can then, if you fully maxed out the uniform with all of the options being mythic, then you can go ahead and, you know, keep on giving it XP, keep on pumping it full of XP, and you can level up. And then when you level it up past Mythic, you can upgrade. You know, there's like 3 tiers. I'm just making this stuff up on the spot, but you sort of get what I'm saying. If you've played enough video games, you'll know what I'm talking about. These are just progression loops that they just create, right? But if they don't enhance, if they're not going to enhance one of the existing, I mean, they could honestly, the skills only go up to level 6. They could honestly make the skills go up to level 10 if they wanted to, or higher, right? Maybe after level 6, you have to pay something besides gold. Again, I'm not trying to do this to scare you. I'm not doing this to like give the devs bad ideas or whatever. It's not about bad ideas or good ideas. It's just progression, right? It's all just progression. And of course, back in 2018, when they first introduced CCF and whatever, some players were like, oh man, another thing to grind. But the game is way more fun now than it was 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago, there wasn't anything to do in the game because there were so few resources, right? Maybe the game eventually hits a level of homeostasis where there's like enough resources to grind, enough things to do, and you don't need any more. But at the same time, you acknowledge the fact that we have so many characters, and yet there's so little pressure, there's so little incentive to really build characters once you've gotten your foundation of strong carrying characters that can do content for you. And the game doesn't really punish you for not using those characters or for only using those characters, right? Like, as much as people want to complain, you can really just clear stage 1 of World Boss Ultimate. You don't have to climb up to stage 99. There are better rewards, there are some better rewards, but it's not drastically better, right? If I'm clearing stage 99 Thanos and you're clearing stage 1, the really big difference is going to be that my raid level goes up a lot faster and my Conqueror level XP goes up a lot faster. But that's it, right? And yeah, that makes other content easier for me. But again, it only makes the content easier for me with my raid level if I'm pushing. If you're staying at level 1, it doesn't really matter, right? There's the booty boxes as well, but there's a layer of RNG to that. So I'm not too, I don't think it's too much to worry about. But I do think that the game could use, I'm not saying that we absolutely need level 70, level 80, or some sort of new thing like Uru or like ISO, but we could use one. It's definitely a possibility. And I've just given you the 2 possibilities where, you increase the character level and the gear level, or you introduce some sort of new system, or you augment an existing system, like allowing players to level up the skills past level 6 with some sort of new resource or some sort of, higher cost resource, or you enhance one of these other ones. The last thing would be to introduce some sort of new account-wide system. And the best example of that would be comic cards or agent level, right? They could introduce some sort of new thing here that's going to enhance your power level account-wide in some way, your attack, whatever this is, right? You sort of get what I'm saying? And have players look at that as a long-term goal, right? I'm going to grind towards this, etc., blah, 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 blah. And again, there's a lot of interesting creative ways that they can approach this. For example, they could have different factions associated with different stats. And then every time you use those faction characters in content, you're gaining XP to level up, to gain points in those stats. Again, very simple. I just made this up on the spot. But let's say, for example, the Black Order, they're going to be the Black Order of Thanos. They're going to be like the all attack stat. So if you want to level up your all attack stat, you're going to have to build up the Black Order, however many members you want. And every time you put them on a team to do anything, dispatch, world boss, whatever, it's 5% XP, right? It's a flat number plus 5% XP. And then once you get enough levels, once you get enough XP, you level up, and then you get 1% increase all attack, and then 2%, and then 3%. And then if you want energy attack, well, then you're gonna have to use, I don't know, the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then if you get what I'm saying, and then physical attack, you're gonna have to use the defenders. You see what I'm saying? They could do that. They could do lots of things. There's tons of things they could do. They could introduce. Some people were saying, again, very simply, another comic card, having a 6th comic card. Yeah, that might scare some of you guys. You're like, I just finished crafting 5 comic cards, Alex. Please don't put this curse on me. I'm not trying to put a curse on you. I'm just saying there are things that they could do, and I'm just curious to know what they're going to do next. And I'm also curious to know what you guys think they should do next, right? Because we are going to see another form of progression. We've seen a new form of character development, but that's individual to the characters. You guys are saying, Alex, they're not going to do that. They just introduced tier 3 characters 6 months ago or 7 months ago. They just introduced P card crafting, premium card crafting, and CTP crafting. Yeah, it might still be like this whole idea and this whole thing might still be like 6 months to a year away, but it's probably a little bit closer than that. Like it's probably not a year away in my opinion, but it'll be interesting to see what they do because like I said, we've hit that point where all the characters now can go to level 70. So I think some players are wondering what is the next minimum, right? What's the next sort of progression plateau that we're gonna want all these characters to get to? Because yeah, I mean, I'm a whale and I have a decent number of I have like 150 characters at level 70. There's definitely some people out there that have every character level 70, right? That have every possible tier 3 and every possible transcendent. They're probably wondering what the next step is as well. So I'm not saying the game should be catered to them, but you know, I want to give everyone a voice here. So hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think is the next step. Are you ready for it or not? And what would you like it to look like as far as, you know, level progression, as far as some sort of new or enhanced tab here, or some account-wide buff a la cards, a la agent level. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your opinions, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.